Joker hates this one weird trick. Brought to you by Nick Anderson and Roma Unuchek from Google. With not further ado, applause for them, please.
Thank you. Hello everyone. Thanks a lot for coming to our talk. We are Nick Anderson and Roma Unuchek. We are security engineers at Google's Android anti-malware team. And our daily job is to investigate malware, and that's how the story started. So we'll be talking today about a flaw we discovered in Joker's infrastructure that allows us to track and find many apps. So first of all, we'll introduce you to toll fraud, then talk a little bit about the Joker family. Then we'll tell you about the actual issue that we found and how we use it to discover more malicious apps and the results of that hunt. Yeah, let's go. So toll fraud, here's our definition of toll fraud. But basically it's apps that tricks users into subscribing or buying something through their mobile phone bill, except for premium SMS and premium calls. The way it works, usually through web billing or direct carrier billing, it's when, the way web billing works, user has to load that page in their browser, enter their phone, just click on subscribe button, and then they will have, usually they will have an OTP and SMS to confirm the payment. That's how this web billing or direct carrier billing page looks like. These are legitimate pages, except for the first one. It's it doesn't have any disclosure prices. It's probably somewhere down. You need to scroll. It will be white letters on white font. But anyway, these are web billing payments. In two of these, then the user has to enter their phone number, but the one in the middle works really interesting. You have to click on this button, and that's basically it. But in order it to work, you have to load it through mobile connection. And these are not one-time payments. These are subscriptions. So the user will be billed, daily or weekly until they discover. And usually it's small amount of money, but because it may work, it will work until the user will go somewhere and cancel it. They actually can steal lots of money. And all those web pages were abused by toll fraud family called Joker. It's the way they usually work. They wait for mobile connection, then load web billing page, inject into invisible web view. Usually it's web view in background or just super small web view with 1 pixel size. Inject JavaScript to click on buttons to start subscription, and they can also intercept OTPs from SMS and inject them back to the page to confirm the payment. So it's easy like that, and there are some malicious families abusing that. The biggest one is Joker family. So it's if you go to search and just Google Joker malware, you'll find lots of articles from almost every security company. It's very well known. It's been with us for over 7 years, and what I kind of like about it, they really they're really good in finding flaws. So just by tracking them, we can always find something new, something that doesn't work on our infrastructure, and they evolve a lot, and they constantly finding ways to bypass detection, analysis systems, whatever. And they over the years they changed a lot, so the way they work, they constantly finding things for example, new cloaking techniques, ways to detect, analysis infrastructure. So, and I have a feeling that there's a big company behind that with, product analysts, program managers, and they have kind of a framework where they can just set, choose features that they want in this exact app, and for the next app they will have a different set of features. So that's how they work. And 7 years ago, all that toll fraud related code was usually presented in the app. But over the years they evolved, and now they heavily rely on dynamic code loading. So they do loading malicious payloads, and executing them. All those apps are like heavily obfuscated. They often use native code, and they use client and server-side cloaking. And we have just like a few screenshots of decompiled code, but that's how it looked like. So the load library, and they have some native method for that. This library is Rust library, and like it's real pain to analyze it. They don't even need to use any obfuscation with Rust. It's like it's just pain, right? And they have string obfuscation in Java code. That's another example. Another library. This time it's just obfuscated library, not Rust library. Different method, different string obfuscation, and reflection based on that obfuscation. So they even hide methods that are being called. So yeah, that's how their code usually in the app that they submit to play. So there are almost no good signals there. They always change things, so it's really hard to track them. But they always rely on server side, on communication with their servers, on C2, on C2s. But they're good in this too. They usually use unique domains for unique apps. So whenever they launch a new app, they launch a new domain. They use random registration details. They use many different things. So it's there are no good signals for that. But we started looking, and here's two examples of their C2s. So first of all, we tried to use census. So if you don't know how census works, they basically go and scan the whole internet. So they have some information for IP addresses, and that's their main kind of entity, right? An entry point. So when you search for the domain, you can see basically information for related IP address. When we clicked on this IP address, we saw nothing interesting except for this weird certificate. And as you can see, it was issued for completely different domain. When we started taking a look at this certificate, it also looked like it was expired a long time ago and issued for a different certificate. Or issued for a different domain. So we checked again this IP address, and it looks like it has only one domain associated with it, a different domain. Okay, at this point we thought maybe something wrong with census, maybe it has old data, whatever. We searched through census for that specific certificate and found many domains. So we continued our investigation, went with another domain, from C2, and this time we used a different tool called VirusTotal. It works in a different way. You have to submit, the domain should be there. They don't scan the internet. They just collect data for domains that they know in this case, and it has the same weird certificate. And VirusTotal has search too, so we used this search, and we discovered again many different domains. Based on this certificate that is issued for completely different host. So that's what we discovered, and Nick will tell you how this works, and yeah.
So this is all very confusing, right? So we're gonna do a couple of quick crash courses on basic tech stacks to get everybody to the same level. Why is there many different host names associated with these many different IPs? It was very confusing. And so we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what the hell was happening. But as we all know and love, normal standard TLS request, right? I'm a client, I want to make a request to this singular web server. This is, go back to the early 2000s when everybody had a web server in their living room because that's how the internet worked, right? We start that by making this client hello, this handshake, right? And I can get to that one site and I can get back my data. But if I wanted to scale that up a bit, or maybe I want to have multiple services, how does the TLS part work there? How do I have a singular TLS certificate for that one host name? Well, we could do stuff like have wildcard certs, right? And we can start to scale up our infrastructure as one does. But now how would I do that TLS certificate part? I'd probably use a wildcard and I would put it on a proxy server, right? And this is where I'm recreating TLS offloading services and kind of how the modern web works. So we'd put all of this logic onto this Nginx proxy, and we would have our TLS certificate there. So as the client, when I hit I'm trying to go to like subdomain 1.totslegit.xyz. When I want to hit that, I go to this proxy and that TLS terminates, right? So I'm still encrypted, but all of the traffic after that is forwarded to the back server. And I can still have my nice encrypted session, but I can also get back exactly the service that I want, and the TLS handshake makes sense. Okay, so how would I scale this even further? Let's say I have thousands of C2s that I want to provide TLS certificates for. The way I would do this is still with that proxy server, but they introduced this technology called SNI, or server name indication. This was an extension that said, I can now have the browser tell me, as part of the client hello handshake, specifically what hostname I'm trying to look up. And then when I get to that proxy server, the proxy server reads that value, the SNI value, and goes and finds the correct certificate for the hostname I'm trying to request, right? And it looks like this. It's basically the same thing. But now in that client hello, we have the SNI field. And it says, I want to go to www.totslegit.xyz, which is this very benign server on the bottom right. But maybe this hosting provider has just hundreds of other C2s or like servers that they're providing service to, right? And so all of this comes back to this proxy server where it's doing a lookup of what certificate you're trying to communicate with for which hostname, right? Okay, so hopefully that all makes sense, and hopefully we're all experts on SNI now, right? Just making sure we all have a common base. But if you went directly to that IP address and you didn't give it, like the browser doesn't actually provide that hostname that you're trying to look up, the proxy server is not going to know what certificate, like who you're trying to talk to. And it's probably not a web server by default. So it's going to go and pull out the default certificate that's stored in its Nginx configuration and give that back to you. And this isn't going to match whatever IP you just gave, presumably. Like, I'm assuming we're not putting IPs in CN fields, right? And so you're going to get back our common TLS failure error message, right? You're going to see this beloved window, and we all know and love it. And we're like, oh, great. You know, I'm being protected by Google from going to this raw IP address. So bringing all of this together, kind of like the flaw that we sort of discovered was that if we have a C2 that we know is associated with Joker, we could do a DNS resolution. So we use this one at the top, this ricus.top. We hit the DNS server and we get back the IP address, but we also get a new C2 or a new DNS resolution, right? There's many of them associated with it. And then if we visit that, we can pull a certificate, get the SHA-256 of it, and start to like build out this fingerprint of what the infrastructure might look like, and just kind of collecting host names all along the way. So thinking through this, it made a lot of sense. It was like, okay, Joker is a really big operation. They're probably basically doing copy-paste, right? They have hundreds of C2s. They're probably all standard images. And when they want to spin up new regions, they probably just copy-paste this TLS load balancer as well. And why would anybody change the certificate on that? Because nobody's visiting this directly, right? So all we had to do was just start building lists. And it turns out, all we had to do was start building out this list. So we just needed to enumerate how many we could do. So we started with this specific certificate, this @jam.work. And then Census has a fantastic API. And so we were able to write some Python scripts that would just enumerate these and feed them directly in. And this was kind of what we found. So Roman showed this earlier where we had just this one certificate, but we found if we hit their API, we're not just getting the ones that are popping up miscellaneously, as we're getting all of them, like every single host name that they've ever seen. Because again, Census is doing this constant scanning of IP addresses at the range, right? We're going to see every time that these certificates have ever been presented. And what we had was, just this real-time scanning engine. So just to kind of, again, articulate how simple this was, it was like 6 lines of code. And then all we had to do was hook this up with our internal systems, and we could kind of proactively identify things, new C2s as they were coming online. And I'll let Roman kind of talk about some of the numbers, sort of like what we found.
Yeah, thank you. So we started doing that in September 2024, or like in October 2024, like almost a year ago. And immediately we discovered like 70 domains associated with Joker. So we started running that script daily, and we were finding 2 new servers every day, like on average, like including like weekends. But after 2.5 months running that, we stopped finding new servers. So we started investigating, like trying to understand what's happening. Maybe something wrong with, I don't know, maybe something wrong with census data. Maybe they figure out this trick because, we've been using that for 2.5 months. But we also started investigating newly, detected apps for Joker, and we found that they actually started using a new certificate. And over the last year, we discovered in total five different certificates. So sometimes they update their server image or whatever, like VM image that they use. And they did it like at least 3 times. Every time they put a new certificate for new domain that, one of the domains that they're using actually for like C2 communication, but they also like use the same image for everything else. And during last 11 months, we automatically discovered more than 500 servers for Joker infrastructure, and we found around 600 associated domains for them. Around 200 servers out of those 500, like 40% of those servers, we never found a related app. Of course, it can be, because we just failed to properly, detonate C2 communication in that app. But I think mostly it's because we were detecting those accounts on weaponized apps even before they started doing, anything malicious, before they started doing C2 communication. The way it works, they usually, they have to, in order to publish the app, they have to create an account or like buy someone's account. And when they do that, they already providing us a lot of signals that we use for our detection. We can discover them. And also, the way they publish apps, they usually publish unweaponized version like in the beginning without any malicious code, and then they start adding malicious code one by one. So we think that we probably detect somehow acted on their accounts during these phases. But for other IPs, for other servers, we found apps. So in total, we found around 300 apps, and almost all found apps were proved to be Joker toll fraud apps, except for just a few gambling apps. And the theory behind that, and of course, there can be just like coincidence that they're using the same weird infrastructure images, but we think that the company behind Joker is actually a big actor with many different activities, and they're also doing this like legal gambling, maybe that's fraudulent gambling. It's really hard to prove what's happening inside those gambling apps, but we think that they just made this mistake and started using wrong server images for these gambling apps, and they have way more gambling apps by themselves. So over the last 11 months, we started finding less apps. They started, because Joker developers started hiding their C2 activity better, but they also switched in many cases, in many apps, they switched to third-party, like publicly available infrastructure. And we're still discovering new apps, but like for us, it's not beneficial anymore because we have other detections that helping us discover these apps faster, but it's still a great way to track their activities and know for sure how many apps they're trying to publish or submit. Yeah, and we also found a few unrelated domains on the same infrastructure. That's how they look like. So some of them look like phishing. The last one is actually still running. It's some, I don't know, it looks like some Chinese payment system. And of course, they can be, again, unrelated to Joker activities, but somehow they are related to those weird servers with incorrect certificates. So we suspect that it's actually, again, it's their additional activities that they're doing, not just toll fraud, but they're also doing other stuff. Nick?
Yeah, sweet. So yeah, a couple of the kind of key takeaways that we sort of took from this investigation, and absolutely not anything new, I'm sure, right? But threat actors are human, and they're making mistakes in the same ways that we are. And so being like us going a bit further into this investigation and looking at server infrastructure as opposed to just the app level, which has always been so much of what Joker was about, gave us this amazing template to start scaling these detections and find so many more apps. And like the level of sophistication on a lot of these apps is just crazy. They're very, very difficult to reverse. So finding new patterns like this was just so incredibly fruitful. So obviously, like, look beyond the malware, like, go a bit further, go a bit beyond, and try to think about other ways that you would have messed up if you had done some sort of server infrastructure stand-up, because it can be incredibly valuable. One call out we did want to note, so if this seems familiar, or maybe it sounds like something you read earlier this year, that's because there was this blog that came out on hunts.io. I'm not really sure who they are, but they did a very big blog write-up that is more or less all of the same stuff that we talked about. But that came out in, I think, February. And as Roman mentioned earlier, right, we've been working this case since, I think, September of last year. So if you want to see more details or like have more access to kind of what this looked like, you can check out their blog. They've got more details there. And that's it for us. We're more than happy to take any questions or talk at length about it. Thank you so much.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.